third line, where it says Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, and then Washtenaw County Health Department. I think that should be and instead of on.
Yes, you're right. Correct that.
The next one is on page 4 under L2. Just in the first motion there, just the formatting, we've got extra space in there and out of alignment on the left side. And that's again,
Okay.
so for the vote on the original motion too, same extra space and alignment. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher, did you have anything?
I don't.
Other council comments? I just have one, at least I believe it one, on the virtual budget work session on May 13th. I had note that Scott Bell was in attendance. I know he missed the May 29th or the April 29th one.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah.
I believe if you could check that, Carol, I believe on page 7, he was present, so.
I'll fix that also.
Okay, any other comments anybody noted? Okay, thank you all. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We have no prearranged participation this evening, so we'll move on to item E, which is the agenda.
Sean, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but I can't find the panel that I used to raise my hand. Can somebody tell me how to get to that?
Yep, Donna, I should say it for everybody. If you click on the participants window at the bottom of if you mouse over the bottom of your screen and turn on the participants window.
37, yep, okay.
And then it should appears on the
There it
right.
is. I've gotten it. Thank you. Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt everyone. I apologize.
Nope, that's good information for everyone anyway. Then the raise hand button is at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, thank you.
So right now for the rest of the audience can see, we have everybody muted except council at this point. And when we get to an item like non-arranged participation, we'll unmute and take people by hand. So at this point in the agenda, I see him. We have Jim Smith, who has his hand up to make a motion to approve the agenda, recognizing that we do have the one additional item that's requested by the parents of our high school seniors.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of new business L4, the DHS seniors procession.
I'll second.
Motion by Smith, second by Donna Fisher. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of approving the agenda with the addition of the L4, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, we are down to item F, F1, which is our first public hearing for the sale of property. If you're looking at the agenda on the screen, the sale of the property here is also at 7651 Dan Hoy. The first one is a sale of property to Detroit Edison. So what I will do here in a minute is open the public hearing, and then we'll take any comments from anybody. If you raise your hand, or if you're calling in, I believe you can hit *9 on your phone. That will allow a raise the hand motion as well. We'll take comments. So at 6:06, I'd like to open the public hearing for the sale of property at 7651 Dan Hoy to Detroit Edison. Is there anyone that would like to speak this evening? I have a hand up. Is it Bill Muir? Nope, hand went down. Okay, I don't see any, I don't see anybody's hand up here. So at 6:07, I'll close the land sale public hearing for the sale of property at 7651 Dan Hoy to Detroit Edison.
Actually, sorry, Sean. I went to unmute Mr. Muir and accidentally lowered his hand. So I have asked him to unmute or given him the option to if he would like to speak.
Oh, very good.
Hi, this is Will Moyer. I guess I think I really more had a comment on item 2, not item 1. But they're conjoined though, right?
No, we'll open up a separate public hearing for item 2 then, Bill, or Will.
Okay. It was because you mentioned 7651 Dan Hoy. I thought you might have been talking about item 2. So
Yeah,
sorry, I was confused.
Both sales here relate to the same property, which is being split. So thank you for
Okay.
your patience. We'll be right to that next item. Okay, so I'll just make sure there's no other public comment.
Do you
Okay.
want me to unmute everybody to give them the opportunity?
Yeah, I do see a hand up. There's a no-name hand that's been raised, Justin.
Gotcha.
If you would please state your name and address, please.
My name is Tom Jenkins, and
Hi,
I'm
Tom.
9448 Horseshoe Bend in Dexter.
Okay. You have the floor.
Is the sale of the DTE property necessary to go along with the sale of Avalon housing property?
No, they're independent transactions.
So if you didn't sell it, wouldn't matter with the Avalon property. Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Justin, do you see any other hands? I'm glad to have some public comment if there's some out there, so.
I do not. Do you want me to unmute everybody?
No, not necessarily. I think everybody understands the raise hand feature.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing then. We had the one comment. Carol, we'll say we closed it at 6:09, please.
Okay.
Okay, and then as is our typical convention, we take immediate action on something like this following the public hearing. So is there a council member that would like to make a motion, please?
Cousins will make the motion to approve the sale of land on 7651 Dan Hoy Road, half of it to DTE Energy.
Okay, motion by Cousins,
Second.
second by Smith. Thank you both. Any discussion? Just so the public is aware, there's been a lot of activity over on the Broad Street site where their old substation was. It's been removed. A lot of the poles have been pulled out, new poles set. So they're living up to their end of the bargain, and the city is / the DDA is making payments on that agreement over 5 years in the land swap. But this is the last key step in the city's process to complete the transaction on our side, pending a little bit of investigation on the site. So, okay, I'm going to ask Ms. Jones to call the vote, please.
Michelle?
I didn't hear that.
He's not mute. He needs to be muted or unmuted.
Looks like Zach muted himself. I've asked to unmute him.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes?
Cousins,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item F2 is the second public hearing. This one is on the sale of the property at 7651 Dan Hoy to Avalon Housing. It's the other half of the parent parcel that we just sold half of to DTE. So I'd like to follow a similar process. I will open up the public hearing at 6:12, and I see, I'll take them in order of the hands I see. Taryn, if you could state your name and address for the record. Justin, if you could unmute Taryn, please.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I don't know if you can see me or not. I'm on my iPad and
you're okay.
I can.
Oh, okay. I didn't do my hair. Anyhow, my name is Taryn Scher. I live at 7231 York Street. I'm a new resident of Dexter. I moved here late last summer. I became aware of this possible purchase to Avalon of the city land. So I attended meetings, and one of the things that I just want to point out is that many of these meetings, many of the residents, and I'm talking about taxpayers, were called uncharitable. And I don't think that this is about charity or not. This is about, you have limited resources here in Dexter. It's not like we have tons of land. And one of the questions that I asked was, where is the proof that there is a need for the city of Dexter to have this type of housing, especially supportive housing? I have no problems with affordable housing, and quite often they try, and at many meetings that I went to, they said, well, it's like Walkabout, when in fact it is not. I also think that this is not even a time for us to spend our resources given this economic pandemic. I mean, what we are experiencing, but at the cost of about, I think it's like $400,000 a unit, I think taxpayer monies can be spent, even though it's state and federal, elsewhere. And one of the things that stood out to me was at a meeting at the library this past winter. One of the women stated that she'd been on the board. They've been looking for close to 10 years for affordable land and finally found cheap land in Dexter. That caught my eye since I had bought lots of land. I happen to be in real estate, and I happen to be an investor. So that I thought, whoa, cheap land? That's really telling. And then to find out that there's no clarification on supportive housing. Are they going to turn this, all their units have been turned over to supportive housing, except I think for one or two places. Is there a guarantee that that's not going to happen? Because they're saying, oh, there's only a few of them, and yet they haven't made clear about drug users and how they're going to contain it. And they've just gotten angry at meetings. And I'm always one, when people start calling me names, it says they have no facts to give you. The food pantry is closed, Faith in Action. That's uncharitable, in my opinion. I'm right by Creekside. I walk my dogs all the time, so I see the cars lined up and food is being given out, which I think that's wonderful. And I personally think there needs to be more input. I think there's so many questions that have gone unanswered. A meeting like this, to me, I realize you're doing what you need to do to move things forward, but I think there needs to be more input from the taxpayers of Dexter, not just from outsiders coming in saying, oh, you need to put this in. They are not a taxpayer. They're not part of this area. We live here and our voices need to be heard. And I did help collect signatures. I talked to people in my neighborhood. I heard what they had to say. And there's a lot of questions. And they're saying, why are they doing this? Or I didn't hear about this. But they signed because they want to be able to be heard, and they feel there's just too many questions. I say, you don't need to say yes to this, because I feel that this is being rushed through with too many unanswered questions. That's all.
Thank you for your comments this evening.
Okay.
Next up on the list is Wendy Carty-Saxon, please.
Hi, thanks. So yeah, I'm Wendy Carty-Saxon, Director of Real Estate Development at Avalon Housing. And just wanted to say we're really pleased to be back here before council. We're very pleased to have received your vote last month to approve our Hilltop View site plan and zoning. So thank you. We're excited to be continuing our path with this development, begun before council back in 2018. And we had preliminary discussions with Faith in Action prior to that. And obviously this vote to sell the land is clearly a critical part of that journey. So just really wanted to say that we're here and we're available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Next up is Will Muir. Will, this is the opportunity on the Avalon property. If you want to speak now, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm also what I guess I would consider a new resident of Dexter. I live at 3544 Central Street, and I moved here in 2006. So I am an emergency physician at the University of Michigan Health System, and I would say that Avalon Housing has been presenting at meetings and I think has been quite transparent about this process going back to 2018, as they mentioned. I do not believe that the 48130 zip code confers immunity from alcohol and drug dependence or the potential for it. And I believe that I moved to a community that would be supportive of the vulnerable and less fortunate. And I think that is where I live. And I really respect everybody's opinions, and I'm glad there are others here speaking. But I do, in terms of what I see in the emergency department, know that there are people out there who do need help and a supportive place to get back to get through their medical problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. The next hand I see up is Sherry Montoy.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sherry with Faith in Action. I'm the director there. And I want to thank the council for their work on the behalf of the people of Dexter that you've been putting in for the last couple of years on this particular project. And I do want to say that Faith in Action has temporarily closed the site in Dexter just because COVID was really unprecedented. We couldn't have imagined, having to send all of our volunteers out of our space. And so a staff of not even quite 5 whole people is running all of our programs out of the Chelsea building just for safety and health and wellness. And we will be back in Dexter. The space is still there. We just have temporarily closed it. But all the people in Dexter are being served as well. So they continue to have all of our resources available to them. So I want to thank you for believing in the work of Faith in Action. I want to thank you for prioritizing people in our community who are often helped last. I want to thank you for looking forward to anticipate community needs before people are in crisis. I want to thank you for thinking about people as people, and thank you for helping to create and build community, because as we can all see over these past 9 or so weeks, the strength of the people and the strength of the community are really what has helped us all succeed and help us all be our best selves. And as we move forward with the sale of the land at Dan Hoey, we at Faith in Action want you to know how much we appreciate your support of all the people of Dexter and in the Dexter community.
Thank you, Sherry. Next up, we have a phone number 734-426-8595. That might be Sue.
It is Sue.
I thought I recognized it.
And I live at 3435 Edison.
Thank you.
On March the 6th, we sent a petition to you that was signed by 350 of your constituents, registered Dexter voters. And the intent of that petition was to put this particular sale on the ballot so people would have the opportunity to say, yes, we really like that, or no, we don't want that here. And it was signed by 10% of the required registered voters, which puts something on the ballot. And as you all know, the intent was on this particular sale, even though it was a charter amendment. And with the COVID-19 restrictions, recirculating a referendum on an ordinance would be almost impossible. We can't go to door. The governor put an extension on the stay-at-home order until the 12th of June. And every single person that I talked to that signed that petition wanted to see the people have the say in this particular sale. And some were for it and some were against it, but they all wanted people to have a say. And that's all we're asking for. And so I'm asking you to do one of two things. Either postpone this vote and this ordinance until the people of Dexter can, you know, have the opportunity to sign another petition, or honor the voice, honor the people who said, hey, we want this on the ballot. There was more than enough legally to put something like this on the ballot, and each and every one of them would re-sign the petition. But because of the COVID-19 and we're in unusual circumstances, that's going to be very difficult at best. So we want you to be fair. We want you to listen to your constituents. As I was going around collecting signatures, the vast majority of people that I talked to, and these were random people, wanted to see this voted on. They wanted it on the ballot. And they're your constituents. I'm asking you to listen to them and say, yes, we need to postpone this. We need to put this on the ballot and let people have a say.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate your comments today. I see another hand, Jamie Griffin. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Jamie Griffin. I live at 463 Preston Circle. I am also the treasurer of Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government. And as Sue just alluded to, this is the group that recently submitted the signatures of more than 10% of registered voters asking that all sales of public property go to a public vote. I've spent the better part of a year trying to understand the circumstances surrounding this particular sale of public property. And based on all of the information I've gathered during that time, including that contained in the numerous public documents that I recently obtained via a Freedom of Information Act request, it is clear that with this sale of public property, you wanted to help Faith in Action get a permanent location for their food pantry and help replace some of the lost workforce housing units due to Walkabout Creek's transition to primarily market rate housing. Unfortunately, you didn't know the critical distinction between workforce housing and permanent supportive housing. And in your defense, Avalon and Faith in Action certainly haven't gone out of their way to emphasize that distinction. And our own community development manager assured you that this development was not new policy. However, the city never has had permanent supportive housing reserved for the county's chronically homeless who need not be clean or sober or even agree to treatment. I confidently oppose the proposed land sale for several reasons. I'll first summarize those reasons and then provide more details for each. First, the proposed distribution of housing types, that is 15 permanent supportive units and 9 workforce units, does not align with any documented housing needs here in Dexter. And the stated need for a permanent location for Faith in Action's food pantry here in Dexter is dubious at best. Second, Avalon has confirmed that active drug users are not screened out of permanent supportive housing, and that participation in support services is voluntary. And yet the proposed development is in the drug-free zone directly across the street from our elementary school playground. Third, the proposed development is, in my opinion, the epitome of reckless spending of public tax dollars. Lastly, as I reviewed all of the public documents, I was incredibly disappointed to learn about several breaches of public trust that have impacted this entire conversation. I take the statements I make very seriously. I do. And I have gone to great effort to make public all supporting documentation for every statement I've made to date. Therefore, I ask that you please bear with me as I spend some time tonight helping you understand how I reached my decision to oppose all aspects of this development and the corresponding sale. First, regarding the undocumented need for permanent supportive housing here in Dexter. Although you will, I suppose I anticipated, perhaps it will come later, you will no doubt hear emotional pleas about how homelessness and the need for permanent supportive housing are going to increase dramatically with the economic fallout caused by the pandemic. The fact remains that no one has provided any evidence that the city is in need of 15 permanent supportive housing units. In fact, the proposed distribution of housing types is dictated by the specific funding mechanism used by Avalon. As Taryn mentioned earlier, have you confirmed that Avalon will not convert the entire development to permanent supportive housing as they have done with all of their other developments, with the exception of Sharon Ann Apartments in Chelsea? I know Faith in Action has made a point to emphasize that they have referred 20-some individuals or families to the county's waitlist for permanent supportive housing. But they have also confirmed to me in an email that they don't know how many of them actually ended up on that list, eligible for permanent supportive housing. This is City of Dexter property. Our resources here are not unlimited, and it is now more important than ever to ensure that we are properly allocating them. It is irresponsible to not fully understand what Dexter's housing needs really are before handing public property over to a real estate developer that has its own agenda and a social service organization that has shuttered its doors during a pandemic. You heard that right. Faith in Action's food pantry here in Dexter was and remains temporarily closed because of the pandemic, at a time when food insecurities are almost certainly exacerbated. Regarding the proximity of the development to the schools, although we all must be mindful of fair housing laws, please consider the following excerpt from an email thread between representatives from Avalon, the county, and the Fair Housing Center dated July 23rd. Avalon's Mr. Appel writes, quote, "Here's a careful caveat. The Fair Housing Act protects those, quote, in recovery, not active users. Since one clear housing first / supportive housing standard is that we don't require people to be in recovery, we need to be careful how we make this claim," end quote. In one breath, Avalon will assure you that they know more about their tenants than do traditional landlords, but in the next breath, they'll try to convince you that rates of substance use among their tenants is no different than rates in the general population. In fact, in an email to our city manager, the county confirmed that nearly a third of all adults entering community
Yep. All the lights went out. Welcome to 2020, everybody.
Yeah, it seemed like we had a little bit of a power blip. It's hard to tell if people are still moving or not. I can see Dan's moving. Justin, can you unmute people that had to re-sign on?
Hello?
We can hear you,
Can
Sean.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Jim, I got a text from Jim. People are trying to log back on, so.
Okay, yeah, it's weird. Just like randomly. There was a little bit of a power blip up here, though.
Yeah, we're out here on Dover Street.
Your power's out?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, welcome to 2020.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I'm glad. We still have power here. Dan, can you tell from SCADA what's shut down?
I love how when I start typing DTE into the search, the first suggestion is outage map.
Right. Hey Dan, can you tell from SCADA what areas of town are out? Okay. All right. Bye.
So Justin, I'm showing there's 37 people on right now. Is that what you have?
I believe so.
Justin, can you unmute Dan? Please.
Yep, I asked him to unmute.
Thanks.
Did you get some candles for lighting effect?
Can you hear me, Courtney?
Yeah.
It won't let me on. Let me make a phone call.
Yeah, that's comforting. I was just curious. That's usually a good way to tell since we have
Right.
video
If I was
raised.
at the wastewater plant, I could pull it up.
Yeah, no, I know.
Well, we'll find out how many people are going to join from their phone.
Yeah, I was just curious what areas it looked like. Is most of council back or no?
Nope. I think it's just Zach and I right now.
Oh, okay, so Donna.
Donna, Paul, and Jim are, if they're without power, and I don't know, I don't know if they know how to set it up on their phone or not.
Yeah. Check my app.
The chief has his hand up. If Justin, if you want to hear what he has to say. Maybe he's got some knowledge.
Hey, Sean, thank you.
You bet, pal.
Yeah, the fire department just gone out on a transformer fire out on North Parker Road, so that probably threw a glitch into everything.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
For the update. Appreciate it
How
very
in
much.
that area? We need that substation.
Actually, it's coming in as multiple transformer issues now, so.
Oh, God.
Has someone on staff called to the other council members to tell them how to log in with just their phone?
So it's saying they were struck by lightning. Have you got weather down there in Dexter?
What?
I'm at home, so.
Lightning? It's 8. I don't have any lightning. It's
in
Well,
the
like a
upper
heat
80s,
lamp.
but the idea, Zach's idea is a good idea though. Thanks everybody else on the call for staying with us while we work this out a little bit. Okay, Justin, it looks like Jim Smith is there. Can you unmute Jim, please?
Except I can call Paul.
Jim, can you hear us?
Yes.
Justin, do you want to call Donna?
Sure.
Can you hear me, Courtney?
Yeah.
Chippewa has no power. Westridge, no power. Wastewater treatment plant, no power.
Okay. It will make sense because did you hear the chief?
Yes, I did. When I was trying to listen to Tim, he tell me what.
Yeah. Good call. Oh, are you back? We didn't even think you were back. Do you have a? Who? Oh, there you are. Okay, yeah, we'll unmute you. Sorry, I didn't see you were back. All right, bye. All right, so I think that just leaves Donna.
Who is Paul under? What number is he under?
Paul's here. No, he's here with his face.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm catching up.
Yeah, no, he was hard to see. There he is.
All right.
We're getting close now.
Now I'm back.
I think it's just Donna. So she should have power, I think. Let's see, Donna.
Has anybody been able to call Donna or no?
Justin said he was going to.
I'm on the phone with Donna right now.
Great. Okay, great. I just wanted to, we're just waiting on, for everybody out there, we're just waiting on the last council member to try and reconnect here. Carol's still on the line, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Have the transformer issues on North Parker and Dexter Chelsea. There's been multiple calls coming in that area.
So apparently Donna is without power, but she's going to call in.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Claire, would it be okay to talk for the same issue?
I'm surprised she doesn't have power. It's interesting.
I can almost see your house and I have power.
Yeah. It's interesting how that works.
Well, it sounds like now that transformers were taken out down Parker Road and down Dexter Chelsea. So that was quite a big cell that went over the top of Chelsea.
Yeah, that's so funny. It hasn't rained or anything. I haven't heard anything here. Sitting at my desk. Fascinating.
Maybe the Greek gods are coming back to life and chucking lightning bolts down on them.
Yeah, this 2020 has been one big lightning bolt. Justin, I think that's is that Donna's phone number? The 5169?
It looks familiar, yes. There it
Yeah,
is.
there you go. Donna,
Yes,
there you go. You all right over
thank
there?
you. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in, I think.
Yeah, that
I
was a
think
little
I'm in.
crazy.
Okay, so
Oh,
let
I
me
know, how
just-
silly.
So hold on a second. Let me just do a reset. Donna, you're there, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Justin, you can put the chief back on mute temporarily. I want to get back to the public hearing here under Jamie. Zach, you're here.
Yep. And actually, before we continue, could Justin remind folks who had to switch to phone what they have to do to raise their hand?
Yep, I was going to go with that. I just wanted to find out, make sure I have everybody in attendance. But thank you. I believe it's star 9, right?
There's something wrong with your voice, Sean.
Yeah,
Justin?
you're
It's going,
unintelligible.
yep, you're going really super slow. It's like you had a stroke or something.
Oh, how's that, better?
Better.
Oh, yeah.
Better?
Completely different.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, interesting. Okay. All right, so we're back to, I'm still checking who's here. I'm here, Donna's here, Paul's here, right, Zach?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, Jim Smith, you're online?
Yes.
Okay, did we clarify that it's, for those folks rejoining us by phone only, that it's star 9 to raise your hand? Justin, is that correct?
Thank you.
That should be correct.
Okay, great.
Okay, and how do we take it down?
I will lower your hand.
We'll do it. Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna, Ms. Jones, if we could show in the meeting minutes that the power went out somewhere around 6:30. I don't have the exact time, but it was pretty close to that. And we're resuming here at 6:45. And we were under the public comment from Jamie Griffin under item F2. Jamie's got her hand up. If you could unmute her, Justin, when you have a chance, and we'll let her continue.
Sure. I just want to verify. Carol, can you still participate? Carol? Okay.
If she can't, Justin, I'll have you call the roll or call the votes.
Okay. So apparently Carol cannot talk.
Okay. So you'll call the votes then.
One second. All right, sorry about that.
All right, so Justin, I'm gonna need you to be the guy that calls the rolls and all that stuff for,
Sure.
Roll call vote.
Sure.
Okay, so we were on item F2 under public comment, and Jamie Griffin was speaking, so we're gonna go back to Jamie.
Yes.
All right,
Just as a reminder, just as a reminder that public comment for individuals is 5 minutes, for groups it's 10. So Jamie, you got interrupted in the middle, but pick up wherever you want to either restart or wherever you were, please.
Does anybody have any, I mean, I was speaking for a little bit. I was talking.
You're okay. I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I just want to remind people what the rules are. So you're fine.
Right. I guess I wasn't quite sure where I was cut off. So I'm just going to pick up maybe my point about the proximity to the schools. I don't know if I had gotten to that point yet.
I think that's appropriate. I think you were just getting there.
Okay. All right. Regarding the proximity of the development to the schools, although we all must be mindful of fair housing laws, please consider the following excerpt from an email thread between representatives from Avalon, the county, and the Fair Housing Center dated July 23rd. Avalon's Mr. Appel writes, quote, here's a careful caveat. The Fair Housing Act protects those, quote, in recovery, not active users. Since one clear housing first / supportive housing standard is that we don't require people to be in recovery, we need to be careful how we make this claim, end quote. In one breath, Avalon will assure you that they know more about their tenants than do traditional landlords. But in the next breath, they'll try to convince you that rates of substance use among their tenants is no different than rates in the general population. In fact, in an email to our city manager, the county confirmed that nearly 1/3 of all adults entering community of care permanent supportive housing programs, including Avalon, report a drug problem. It goes up to nearly 50% if you include both drugs and alcohol. Again, fair housing laws do not protect active drug users. Therefore, if you do approve this land sale, we are urging you to take every legal means necessary to prohibit Avalon from knowingly and intentionally permitting active drug users from living in the drug-free zone directly across from the elementary school playground. There is no room for error here. Regarding the fiscal irresponsibility of the proposed development, even as the Michigan state government is anticipating a shortfall of up to $4 billion, with this project, Avalon is proposing to use primarily state and federal funds to build 24 apartments that cost more than $400,000 apiece. You heard that right, individual apartments that cost more than a single family home, for a project that proposes to address lack of housing due to rising housing costs, no less. Avalon and Faith in Action clearly have a financial interest in this transaction, and one that was apparently expedited because funding criteria were only guaranteed for a certain period of time. Nancy Paul, former director of Faith in Action, understood that Avalon was, quote, eager to get projects in motion while the getting is good. Well, times have changed. The getting isn't good anywhere, and it won't be for a long time. Approving this project equates to approving of the proposed expenditure of public funds, and that would be a mistake. Lastly, regarding several critical dysfunctions impacting this public conversation and your ability to make an evidence-based decision that truly represents your constituents. Although you likely realize that groups like the Washtenaw Housing Alliance have flooded our public meetings via their advocacy network, many members of which do not live in the city of Dexter, is it acceptable to you for our own community development manager and city manager to be working against concerned citizens too? For example, prior to the prearranged participation of Sue Sherrill and other concerned citizens at a recent planning commission meeting, Ms. Annie Owens Nichols sent emails to representatives from Avalon, Faith in Action, and even Doug Marin, the Faith in Action board member writing for the Sun-Times News, giving them advance notice of the planned opposition to the project. Here's our city manager in an email to Faith in Action's leadership team, quote, FYI, attached is a document provided by Sue Sherrill from Monday's planning commission packet. She plans to speak at the meeting under prearranged participation. We have let Avalon know about it also, end quote. For whatever reason, these types of public meetings are how you have chosen to gather public input about this new housing policy, and yet they have so clearly been dysfunctional. And speaking of our city manager, although Mayor Keough has downplayed Ms. Nichols' affiliation with Faith in Action, first as board member and now as board president, it is crystal clear that this has been a violation of the conflict of interest ordinance you are likely soon to adopt. Are you comfortable moving this project forward knowing this? You know full well that your constituents have serious concerns about all aspects of this proposed land sale, so much so that they are willing to amend the city charter because of it. And yet here we are in the midst of a pandemic at a virtual public hearing with power problems, no less, that many people likely don't know about or can't figure out how to join. For me personally, this policy decision always has been a question of responsible governance. Is this a decision that is using limited public resources responsibly, that promotes the overall public health, safety, and welfare of City of Dexter residents, the constituents you were elected to represent, the very people to whom the public property in question belongs? Is this a decision that has honored your obligation as outlined in the preamble of our city charter to be an honest and responsible government characterized by, among other things, effective political leadership and citizen participation? The answer to all of these questions is a resounding no. And no is how you should vote tonight, because a no vote tonight is saying no to doing business with organizations who won't give you a straight answer to your questions. A no vote tonight is saying no to being wasteful and cavalier with the precious resources with which you have been entrusted. A no vote tonight is saying no to a project you never wanted in the first place, so that you can go back to the drawing board and eventually say yes to the project that is right for the City of Dexter. A no vote tonight is saying no to dishonest and irresponsible city leadership and employees and disregard for citizen input so that you can start to rebuild our trust and confidence in you. This has always been the wrong project for the city of Dexter. I can say that with complete confidence. As time has passed, it's clear that you're in this predicament now because you followed the wrong process. You relied too much on faith and trust and too little on facts and evidence. I am urging you to vote no on this ordinance so you can go back to square one and do this right. Although many people might try to convince you that voting against the proposed project is uncharitable in some way, I see it the exact opposite. It would be uncharitable to vote for this project, particularly now that everything everywhere has changed. Our city resources are more precious now than ever, and it is incumbent upon you to make sound decisions that put your constituents first. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you putting up with that through the power outage. Next up is our friend No Name from Horseshoe Bend, I believe. Please state your name and address again. 9448, I remember, I think it was.
I have asked to unmute.
You can't unmute him?
I can only have asked to unmute.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for him, let's go to Stephanie Henyard, please.
My husband's actually going to be the one speaking, and I'm going to start our video.
Thank you. State your name and address, please.
Hi, Ryan Henyard. Can you hear us?
Hello, who is? Okay, that's good. Continue, Ryan, please.
Good evening, everybody. I felt really strongly like we needed to make sure that we participated in today's meeting. I wanted to echo what I wrote, let's see, nearly a year ago when I wrote to Council and Mayor Keough in support of the Avalon Housing Project. I know that as much as there is talk being bandied about how non-transparent or non-public this process has been, we have been given dozens of opportunities, to be able to participate, to give feedback, to listen to our community partners at Faith in Action, at Avalon Housing, to hear from people who would have been able to use the supportive housing that this project is making available, had it been available, and ended up leaving our community instead. And I think that what Council has done has actually been incredibly responsible in making sure that we all know about every twist and turn of this process. Avalon has been great about making changes based on requests that council members have made, providing open houses, mailings from the city, multiple public open meetings. So like, I don't know, I kind of get really confused when people say that this isn't a transparent process, when I've seen more debate and discussion about this nearly any other topic other than the fire station, I think, through the entire city of Dexter. We've been here for about 7 years, and I like to think that this is a compassionate community and one that believes in following evidence-based methods for improving itself. And we know that while, yes, the pandemic has changed everything, quote unquote, the changes that are going to make it more likely that we'll need this kind of housing in the near future. There are more of our neighbors who are going to be suffering from underemployment, unemployment, more people who are at risk of substance abuse due to mental health issues, which are exacerbated during quarantine. We know that the economy of the state of Michigan is going to suffer, and that in those times it is very difficult for people who are already struggling. So this is not the time to turn back on a good idea that the council, the city, and honestly, the majority of the neighbors that I've spoken with feel strongly about in support of. to turn away people who are in our community who can use the help would be frankly just cruel. And I understand that there are differences of opinion on what counts as responsible government, but responsible government is one that takes care of its citizens, one that takes care of its community, and provides resources available that all of us will be able to use. Because we never know when people are, 1 or 2 steps from disaster. You cannot see easily which of your neighbors may be going through things. You can't tell every child that is homeless when they come to school. You're not able to easily ascertain what is going on in someone's household. These are resources and partners who will help us provide a place for those who live in our community. And instead of forcing them out of Dexter and into unfamiliar places, or even or other places like far away from the county, which make it more difficult to maintain family ties, more difficult to maintain existing employment, which makes them more likely to fall back into the grips of substance abuse. The reason Avalon does this wraparound model with support and housing and nearby schools and walkable neighborhoods is because it works. And there's countless scholarship talking about in sociology about the needs of a community-based approach. So I am happy to have Avalon as our community partners for this. I think that the combination of Avalon and Faith in Action gives a nice local touch to what I would have supported anyway as a housing project. I think the food pantry is something that we've all seen the need for, and I've spent a lot of time raising money and donating money to food pantries across Washtenaw County, which are slammed right now. And I can guarantee that there would be people in our community who would be using it right now. So I wanted to thank you all for showing your interest in providing as much public comment as possible, no matter how many people are bad-mouthing the efforts that you're taking, and let you know that many of your fellow citizens are watching what you're doing with pride, and that we support this project moving forward, and we thank Council for its transparency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I apologize if I'm breaking up as I speak. I have no name still on the board with their hand up.
Hi, yes. I assume you can hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes. I live in Dexter Township. I'm not in the city, but I frequent the city often. I've been here 25 years. I can't say that I agree with the previous speaker about it being completely transparent, because
Who's speaking, please?
in my view, this is Tom Jenkins.
Who is speaking? Thank you.
Tom Jenkins.
Thank you, Tom.
I do think, yes, Dexter is a pretty unique little community. One of the things that I would say about the previous speaker is I support his, views. I mean, I don't support his views, but I respect them. From what I've read about it, and I've been involved to some extent more on the sidelines, is that it wouldn't necessarily be Dexter residents that would be able to use the supportive housing, because that would be selected by Avalon in their organization. But my concern, or one of my concerns, is because of the potential for the possible drug use or alcohol use or the problems associated with some of the people who would be in the supportive housing, is how would that affect our sheriff department? Currently, in my understanding, there's 2 sheriffs assigned to Dexter. In the township, they pay for 1/2 sheriff, although I've seen more than 1 sheriff in the township, or a double sheriff, 2 in a patrol car, out for a call in the township. If the facility requires the use of more than 1 sheriff, or more often than 1 or 2, how will that affect me out in the township if they're on call into the facility of the Avalon Housing? And I don't know that that's been addressed or thought of, because it could tax those services as well.
Thank you for your comments, Tom. Justin, do we have other hands up? I'm not seeing any. Oh, Jim McCarter has his hand up.
Thanks very much. Sean, can you hear me okay? I'll use you as the test.
I can.
Thank you. And thanks very much for letting me speak tonight. And I had power go out here and I was momentarily, oh my gosh, I don't know whether it's my house or part of town or all of Michigan. I've do this before. That's a whole story when half of the country went out, and I was in my first year of teaching. So my name is Jim or James McCargar. I live at 3580 Hudson Street, Dexter. It's the corner of Hudson and 2nd Street, sometimes known as Hilltop. It's the one with the big stone chimney that was done by the same people who did the viaduct head out to Island Park, or Island Drive rather. So I've been listening carefully to everything that's said, as I have been doing for a very long time on this issue, and reading for a very long time. I'm speaking as a Dexter taxpayer, a homeowner of 26 years. My kids went through the Dexter schools K through 12. I was a teacher in this district. I was a trained district first responder for many years. I'm a citizen of Dexter and Washtenaw County and Michigan and on out in this wonderful democracy, representative democracy. I want to say first that I believe that underlying the controversy around this project, that there is common ground. For example, I think it's kind of a no-brainer that I am into protecting children. I am into representative democracy. I value them. They are fundamental to me. As any teacher in the Dexter schools knows, when you become a teacher in Dexter, you in your mind make a decision about whether or not you're going to put your life on the line to protect your students. And I would have in a microsecond. And I did, as a first responder, respond to other people's needs outside of my own classroom regularly. So please, I have credentials. I have legitimacy when it comes to speaking about protecting children. I've been an active citizen since I was in middle school. I think we also have as common ground being members of a compassionate community. And one of the speakers just mentioned that a couple of minutes ago. We have underlying foundational elements that make us a community: caring, compassion, honesty, transparency. So tonight, though, even with those foundations, I'm coming to this meeting hurting and angry. In fact, in all of the times we've had these meetings, as I've reviewed all of this stuff, I don't know when I have felt so authentically, genuinely, righteously angry. So I'm going to speak to you as a council, but at the same time, I want to speak to this group that calls itself the Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government. In my view, this group has committed a case study of projecting outward the very irresponsibility that they claim to oppose. DCRG, you have done great harm to the citizens of Dexter and to Washtenaw County already. For after all, each of us is a citizen of expanding layers of community. It's not just Dexter. You've done harm to these council members, even tonight in the language that you've used about them and about the paid staff. Harm to the nonprofits and the faith-based organizations represented in the agreement and at issue tonight. These groups, if you go on their websites and you look at who their board members are and who they support and who participates in them, take Faith in Action, for example. That word faith is not trivial. Most importantly, though, I think you have done harm that you will never see directly, but I've seen it. I saw it Every year I taught, in the eyes of some of my students, in the eyes of the parents who wanted desperately to have the opportunity to retain some level of dignity that had been taken away from them. Adults who have, in projects like the Avalon Project, taken proven paths to reclaiming some of that lost dignity and contributing to community. I think you're trying to create more harm tonight. I've listened to it, I've heard it, and show every willingness to create yet more harm in the future in terms of your petition. I'm calling you out right now. Enough. Enough. Let's take transparency for a start, which got thrown around earlier and easily. People from your group published and sent a flyer to my mailbox. You have a website, a Facebook page, a petition with written comments, and there's not a single named Dexter citizen to be found in any of those, at least as far as I checked just a little bit ago. There's not a single Dexter citizen to be found as a name as a responsible party. You gotta dive to find it. And most of the time you're diving to outside primary sources, not the website, not the Facebook page. You go to the Facebook page and you want to link to something, you end up out at letters to the editor in the Sun-Times News. Contrast to the groups that are doing the work, the hard work on this council. That's honest participation in representative government with almost no benefit coming back. People on the council. And boy, I do not begrudge what we pay our city employees for the great work that they do. I've read through packet after packet after packet and sat through meeting after meeting after meeting. And I look back over my professional life and say, wow, this is what democracy looks like. Take honesty. I probed beneath the 10 separate quotes that you will find on the Dexter Citizens for Responsible Government page, quotes on the web page opposing Avalon. There are 10 of them. Each one of them is labeled, quote unquote, Dexter resident. But what Dexter resident? There are 10 of them. Now, I looked at that the first time and I thought, well, okay, we got 10 different people writing quotes. No way. If you go to the original sources in the papers and the letters, you find out that 8 of those 10 letters were written by either Jamie Griffith or Sue Sherrill, both of whom were on this call. And I believe you knew exactly what you were doing when you put those 10 letters up there. You put you put Dexter resident under each one of them and made it look like there were 10 different Dexter residents who were opposing. And then you had all of the other ones down below who weren't Dexter people. And they were the ones that were supporting this. So, speaking of Sue Sherrill, Sue, you were quoting largely from what you submitted to the packet ahead of time. I'm going to read a quote from that. The intended purpose of the proposed charter was to put the sale of the Dan Hoy Road property to Avalon Housing on the ballot. Every signature represented a voter who wanted the people to decide on this particular project, not council. Baloney. Your petition signature method was as transparent and as honest as the things I just mentioned up above. No, you have no sound basis for such a claim. The nicest word I can come up with is that most of the stuff that I have seen from you, including the piece of paper I've got over here that landed in my mailbox with no name, no phone number, and lots of accusations, is that it's nameless propaganda. Then, Cheryl, you say, Ms. Cheryl, in a representative government, it is reasonable to request and really necessary to bring the whole community on board if you want the project to succeed. No, that's consensus. It's not a necessity in a representative democracy.
You don't have to bring everybody on board on the council. You don't have to bring everybody on board in the community. You certainly haven't brought along me. You've demonstrated quite clearly that you do not understand democracy, let alone representative democracy, the responsibilities of citizenship, or the true nature of community.
Jim,
I'm almost
please,
done.
please try to finish up.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Okay, thank you.
I was watching how long some of the loyal opposition got. I know I'm not a member of a quote unquote group. I've taught 6th grade social studies. I've worked with 2nd graders on civics. I can tell you that the bar of honesty that you set is so low that my 2nd graders could have stepped over it at recess. Homeless children do not come to school wearing such sweatshirts proclaiming their homelessness, their fragile housing, or their food history, or that their parents need support. The parents don't come in and say that, but I saw it. Do you think we are immune from the opioid crisis? Do you think we are immune from addiction to drugs or alcohol? If you believe that, you have got your hands over your eyes intentionally. Throughout this time, as a citizen or as a teacher, I would have supported this council in what they have done based on what I have seen and what I have heard without hesitation. I believe when you as a citizen move into the public square to speak for yourself, you have a covenant for honesty, for transparency, for truth, for care and compassion. I believe the council is demonstrating that, and the groups behind him have. Holy smokes, you look at the people who are behind those groups. It reads like the VIP list of nonprofits in the county and beyond. So I hope that the council proceeds tonight and finishes up this purchase. I hope that the people who have been opposing it and claiming that the organizations are bringing people out to do this. I didn't come out here because anybody solicited me. Nobody did. I did it because I've been an active citizen, monitoring what's going on, reading the packets, and coming. I speak for myself and my wife. She's online too. So, to the council, I appreciate your work. Staff people, I appreciate your work. I've seen the detailed work that you've done, and by golly, you get my 2 thumbs up. This is what democracy looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Justin, I see one other hand up. I don't know the person or recognize the phone, but it's an 8717 number.
Yes, my name is Colleen Pierce. I live at 76814 Forest Street.
Hi, Colleen.
And I am opposed to the sale 100%.
Okay. Thank you for speaking this evening. Justin, do you see other hands?
I do not.
Sean, I do have one email we received.
Okay.
I got
please
it
read it.
last weekend. It says, I will not attend, in quotes, the meeting, but I want to express my strong support for the sale of property to Avalon Housing. There is a vocal opposition, but I believe most people in Dexter support the sale, and it's from a Susan Glowski, GLOWSKI, 8160 Huron, and that was sent as a reply to the email update.
Okay, thank you.
The other emailed comment was in the packet.
Yep, okay. Yeah, and she spoke tonight, so.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:17. Justin, if you can make sure that Carol has that time, please?
I think I'm able to talk now. Can you hear me?
He's back. Yeah, you're
Yep.
back.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm got back on. Okay.
Okay. So the public hearing is closed at 7:17. We have a consideration item on the agenda following now. Is there a council member that would like to make a motion? Jim Smith has his hand up.
I'll make the motion that we approve the land sale ordinance to Avalon Housing.
Thank you, Jim. Motion by Jim Smith. Is there a second?
Support Cousins.
Second by Paul Cousins. Thank you, Paul. Is there any council discussion required this evening?
Yep.
Go ahead, Zach.
All right. Make sure, Sean, to check your tongue to make sure that the both sides are even after this, just in case.
It's such a strange noise.
So
It is.
yeah, Max Headroom flashbacks.
Yeah, there you go.
It's been a challenge to hear a lot of these comments because generally we want folks to be pulling in the same direction, and any sort of conflict is difficult. I do want to say first, everyone who participated both now and for the past 2 years, thank you for being a part of this. I know it's not easy, but it has made the product better, I believe, and has made our process better, and will continue to do so into the future. I know there are a lot of changes to the project from which it was originally prepared. A couple of things before I get into the actual sale ordinance here. This is a housing first project, and what that means is that in order to solve the challenges of housing stability, that folks get the house first, they have a place to live, and that allows them stability to work forward from there and work on other issues. It's not new. It has been around since George Bush II was president. It was promulgated by there. Since then, it does rub a lot of people the wrong way because we believe Americans, you need to pull yourself up by the bootstrap, prove what you're doing, and then you get rewarded for that. And this kind of feels a little bit different from that. However, for those of you who don't know, I have been in the urban planning world since 1999. So I was there in school when this was being birthed, not this project. The fire station was getting birthed, but this concept was getting birthed. And it's actually a very effective way to provide that housing stability and the health outcomes. Additionally, in my research, when the project came up, this size of a project is in the sweet spot to be most productive. And what I mean by that is a lot of planners will prefer to have folks in housing first distribute out through the neighborhood. We like to mix socioeconomic groups because we believe it provides better examples for everybody, and there's mixing and everyone sees each other. What they found is that when you take that approach, it's difficult to provide services for the folks out there because you have to get in your car and get around all the places instead of having a central office like this place will have where there's a person there that you can meet with very conveniently. Additionally, for larger projects, although there are economies of scale, there are just too many people there and it's difficult. So this size project is actually right in the sweet spot. There has been controversy, obviously, from the location across from the school. I personally believe that that's a good thing because children will be able to cross the school on new safety flashing lights that we've provided. If parents won't have to juggle work schedules to pick them up, drop them off, they'll be able to participate in preschool lunch. They'll be able to participate in post activities, which is a wonderful thing to enrich them and the community. Let's see. My apologies for the bit of the ramble here. I'm trying to follow notes. I wasn't here, but there was a lot of similar opposition from my understanding, reading and hearing from folks when Walkabout Creek came in with the reduced housing. I remember folks have said that bikes are going to get stolen, things are going to get stolen out from the yard because poor people are going to move here. And that hasn't proven to be the case. It's actually been cited by many folks as, we want that, not this. And so there's a lot of opposition to new things and to things that we don't understand, and any sort of change. So I do understand that. Let's see. There has been debate over whether or not there's a need for this. The metrics for that are a bit foggy. Rather, let me rephrase that. How one would define what that metric is foggy to me. Is it, we go to Santa Monica and we see a bunch of homeless folks down there out on the pier, then you need it. I would also press that the proof of need has never been a question in any sort of zoning questions that comes up. When a McDonald's goes to open, they don't have to prove that there's new need for a fast food restaurant. It's presumed because they're there, they know what they're doing, that there's a need, that they're able to make it happen. We did not require proof of need from DTE for the sale we just did. We didn't say, show us the fact that you need to have a bigger substation there. We got treated to some electrical adventures nonetheless. When the city sold the Monument Park site for that building, we did not require them to provide proof of need for space for restaurant or offices. When we leased the old library building to the barbecue folks, Hickman Hotel, we didn't require them to provide proof of need for barbecue in town. And why I'm going through this in depth is that due process is important. We're a country of laws, and we need to treat folks equally. We can't have one standard for this sale of property and a different one for another. That's not appropriate. And it puts us in great risk, both for mischiefs in the future and for lawsuits in the present. Additionally, going a little bit farther, in 1995, the population of Dexter was around 1,500 people. So none of the housing that was built in Westridge, Huron Farms, or Dexter Crossing was built for people from Dexter. I hear from person planning that we don't want other people coming here, especially people on the hawk list. I do hear, and I hope it's not the case, but we don't want those people from Ypsilanti or Ypsilanti Township coming out here. I hope that's not the case. But there you go. I will say that we did check with the city attorney about what sort of restrictions we could place on the sale, because we are selling it at what our cost was plus interest, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
No, it's correct.
okay. Is we wanted to ensure that this type of product, because we're selling it at presumably below market rate, that the public benefit continued on. So we asked, are we able to say it has to be affordable housing forever and ever? And can there be a maximum for supportive? And can we require them to keep support staff on site? And to summarize from the attorney was, that's not generally a good idea. So we've decided, I've decided in my mind, I believe council has, that we're not going to pursue that. Instead, the onus is going to be on them to operate it in the manner that they've said they will. Now, that doesn't feel very good, but if they don't do it right and they make changes that are contrary to what they've said and what they promised, then it will be a lot more difficult for them to come in a second time, or for any other folks. So for those of you with Avalon, be aware that folks are watching, and will call you if you make any deviations from what you'd said. Let's see. And well, in fact, one thing that we have done is we've requested we've put in a buyback clause, so that if the city is the first opportunity to purchase it if it gets sold. So that provides protection for us with the lower sale. Let's see. I think I'm all done. I do, if you haven't picked up what I'm laying down, I do support it. I understand the concerns. And again, I believe the product has been better because of that participation, painful though it is. And One last thing on the transparency. I have a couple of friends from high school who I'm Facebook friends with still, and they have all of a sudden started tripping off on posts about mail-in ballots, how there's this tremendous fraud and all this ridiculous stuff. And having served on the election commission and been around local government for a while, it's very obvious to me that they have no understanding of the process for local elections, that you have to do multiple signatures, that they can't just hand it out to anybody, that they don't just start mailing ballots. And I fear that some of the accusations of lack of transparency are because of a lack of understanding of the process. Our staff goes above and beyond what's required by law and what other communities do. I challenge anyone to go to Webster Township or Dexter Township site and try to find site plans for upcoming or previous planning commission meetings. You won't find them. Well, at least in Dexter Township, you won't find them. That does not mean we're perfect. I believe we've learned from this and are trying to figure out ways to do even better. And so for staff, thank you for that. And I will be quiet from now. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Are there other council members that would like to discuss? Seeing none, I don't see any hands. Justin, can you call the vote here in a second? I just want to.
Carol can call the vote.
Or, hold on, Carol. I just want to say to everyone that I support this project, and it's never been about numbers. It's been about people and trying to find a way to help people. And this is an opportunity to do that. And it's been a long process. Maybe not everybody followed it completely or followed it perfectly. I would just say to those that have struggled with this, you know, we tried to learn the best we could about it. The due diligence that I've done looking into Avalon and Faith in Action has proven that they are both wonderful community-based organizations. And I think they're going to be excellent partners here in Dexter. And I hope that we can all get behind that if this land sale goes forward. I want the public to know that it's our intention, if this does go forward, to close. You know, the ordinance has to be posted. We'll be closing on the property as soon as Avalon's ready, similar to the previous land sale ordinance we passed with DTE. So anyway, Carol, if you would please
call. I just one more quick point here.
Sure, Zach, go ahead.
I just want to make sure everyone was aware that this project will be paying some property taxes. We did adopt a payment in lieu of taxes ordinance. So someone can correct me if I haven't mistaken, but the money that will be paid will be based on the income for the residents. So it's not like we're subsidizing this and just throwing money at it. It's not a city housing project. The only cost to the city is the opportunity cost for what we might have got with a different project, a more dense project, which would have probably contributed more traffic in the area. And aside from that, the city of Dexter is not spending any money. We're not contributing money to the cost per unit. Those are coming from entirely different places. And if they weren't going here, they would be lost to other communities, because money isn't just in one big pit, it's dedicated for that use. And one of the things that staff has done particularly good is make sure that the city gets as much benefit from grants in other places as possible. So if this project doesn't happen in Dexter City, it will happen somewhere else and other places will get that money for the units.
Yeah, Zach, it's a percentage of rents paid.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Which is based in some cases on income, but.
Yep. The second level pulled off. Yep.
Okay. Is there any other comment from council members? Courtney, anything to add?
No, everything's in front of you.
Okay. Carol, if you would please call the vote to approve the land sale ordinance to Avalon.
Cousins,
Absolutely, yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to, I appreciate everybody attending the public hearings tonight. We'll move on to item G, which is non-arranged participation. There was a hand up before. Do we have any hands up, Justin?
Not at the moment, but the person who had their hand up, I just asked to unmute.
Okay, I see a hand from Jill Boydston, please.
All right, are you ready for me?
Yes, Jill, go ahead. Welcome.
Okay, my name is Jill Boydston, and I live at 6951 Wellington Drive. And listening to the past discussion, I don't think I ever properly thanked you all for the improvements to the crosswalks. I'm an avid walker, and I was a few meetings to talk about that. So thank you for the wonderful improvements. But right now, I also want to say thank you to Courtney and Justin, Dr. Shoemaker, Mr. Michelle's, Mayor Keogh, the sheriff, and the fire department for helping us, Dexter senior parents, with the details, allowing us to be added to your agenda tonight for a procession of the senior class. We have enjoyed seeing these processions in towns all around Michigan, and we feel that this is a special opportunity to recognize our seniors with a little honor. They've had a lot taken away during the pandemic, and this would just be a nice way to honor them. So thank you again for putting us on the agenda tonight.
You're welcome, Jill.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who would like to speak under non-arranged? Looks like Sandy Getz, I think, if I said that right, or Getz?
You said it right.
Please?
It's Getz. You said it right.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi. I too am a parent of a senior this year. This is actually my third child that supposedly graduated. And I have a fourth one next year. And I just feel these guys, these seniors deserve more than just kind of, I don't want to say brush off, but we've been asking for a while to do something for these guys because everything has been taken away from them. You know, they've lost prom, they lost time with their friends, the graduation ceremony, the graduation parties, everything. Honors night, saying goodbye to their friends. You know, and I just think this is something that we don't want them to remember 2020 as, you know, yeah, we're all in this together, the COVID, the quarantine, but that we acknowledge the fact that they spent 12 years to get to this point, and it's about them, not about anything else. And I think this is how we can say we're proud of you. Good job. So.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yep. I forgot to give you my address, sorry.
Okay, what is it, please?
8125 Ginkgo Way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Justin, do you see any other hands up under non-arranged?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I don't see them either. Okay. We will move on to communications. There were 3 communications in the packet. our upcoming meeting list, a letter from the Dexter Senior Center thanking us for our donation, and a letter from the Dexter Area Historical Society thanking us. Are there any comments on the communications?
Jim Smith has his hand up.
Okay, Jim. Yep, just appeared. Jim, please.
Yes, on page 59 of the packet, the meeting calendar, the note under the calendar refers to meetings held in April.
Yeah.
Think
We
need
can
to-
update that to say it'll be through June.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? You still got your hand up. You're done. Okay, we'll move on to our first report this evening then. Our first report is from our Public Services Superintendent. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, council. In your
Hi, Dan.
In your packet, I have a written report, but I would like to start with some updates on where we're at with a few of our projects, if that's okay. I'd like to start on Grand Street. Last week, they came in and they pulverized all the asphalt. This week, they're in here doing the sewer main work. Donna, I think before the meeting, you had talked about your house shaking. They had installed
I did.
they installed the first sewer manhole at Inverness and Grand, and I think they laid 2 or 3 pieces of pipe headed back towards Kensington Road. So
Oh, good. Then they'll get shaken.
yeah, we got 2 more manholes to put in, and then as they're doing that, they're going to stub off the new sewer leads where we have to put them. So it should be staying pretty busy up there for a while. Forestry project, I did get an email today saying that Doan was going to be up there. I think the superintendent and maybe somebody was up there, but they didn't actually start work like I thought they were going to do per the email. I'll have to follow back up with Patrick and Chris tomorrow to try to figure out if they're going to be there hopefully tomorrow. Central Street project, they came back in last week and they got quite a bit of the restoration work done. I wasn't totally happy with what they had finished, so I had called Patrick at the end of the week on Friday. He met me out there around 9 o'clock, and I went over some different things with Patrick. So he's going to put a punch list together, so hopefully we can get that grass really established up there, because we're running out of precious time right now. If we don't get it done here shortly, it's going to be hard to grow grass when it's not raining that much. Do you have any questions on the 3 projects that I was talking about?
Dan, this is Paul. I talked to the fellow from Doan today. They came by. I happened to be outside, saw them, and they were going to do some modification around that drain in front of my house with some more stone, and so the water runs into the sewer there instead of running down.
Okay, into the beehive, you mean?
Yep.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'll follow up with them tomorrow, and hopefully they're going to get in here and get started. I really appreciate Patrick and OHM. They sent a letter out to Doan telling them they need to get in here or do this, or we're going to hire somebody else. And I know that under the conditions we're under, but we're running out of valuable time to grow grass without having to water it all the time. So I appreciate OHM on that. Well, if there's no questions on that, does council have any questions on my report?
I don't have any, Dan.
Okay, well, I just want you to know our staff is happy and healthy. Every morning I got
Oh,
a
good.
checklist. I got a checklist that I actually take their temperature, ask them different questions before they start work to try to make sure that we stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that update, Dan, and please do stay safe with the rest of the staff there.
And I did get a robocall from DTE that they thought the power would be back on just before 10, so. We
Okay,
do have
thank you.
several things running on backup power, but that's why we have generators, so there's no issue.
No issue at all.
And they put out some stop signs at the traffic lights, I think.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Next up is our Community Development Manager, Michelle.
Good evening, Council. How are you all this evening?
Good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the power comes on and everyone can put their ACs back on. So before I jump into updates on my report, does anybody have any questions regarding what's inside the report currently? Okay, so, okay, so there've been a couple of, excuse me, I'm so sorry, recent things by the state, specifically the Liquor Control Commission and the state legislature on ways to help businesses, especially the restaurants and businesses that sell or manufacture alcohol. And one of the things is what they're calling a limited permanent outdoor seating permission application. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And it would allow an on-premise tasting room permit or a manufacturer license with an on-premise tasting room permit or off-premise tasting room license, the opportunity to have this outdoor area. There's a number of conditions in order for that to happen, including permission from the local community. This time frame would be, if they get approved by the state, only June 1st through October 31st, and it would not be able to be opened until the governor opens up that particular sector of the economy for business. There's another one for new on-premise specialty designated merchant licenses, and that has to do with the sale of beer and wine and an ability to sell growlers to go. That affects Class C tavern, A hotel, B hotel, club, etc. types of licenses. And then there's new bar application process, and then requests for release of escrowed license. All of this is designed to be responsive to businesses' need in this particular segment of the economy. The, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. The other is a new House bill, and that was just introduced last week, and it would allow if it should pass, it would allow a governing body of a local unit to designate what's called a social district that contains a common area to be used by on-premise licensees to obtain a social district permit. And basically what you're talking about is an area where people can gather, again, for the consumption of alcoholic beverages. And like I said, that's going to have to go through the legislature. I don't know how fast they will move on that, but all of these things are going to bring up instances where the City Council, DDA, Planning Commission may have to move quickly if there's something that we want to do in relation to any of these new tools, let's call them. I will send you an email, or I'll send Courtney an email that she can distribute that has all of the different information so that you can look it over and become more familiar with it. Do you have any questions for me? I know this was kind of a quick jump.
No, thanks. Michelle, I think sending out the information in an email is the way to go.
Okay.
You know, whether it's the DDA and council or whoever might be involved in that approval chain. So thank you.
Thank you. The one thing I will add is with the Liquor Control Commission's limited permanent outdoor seating, this may end up going hand in hand with some of the discussion that was held at the DDA meeting last Thursday regarding potential repurposing of public parking spaces for additional outdoor seating area. Now, that discussion didn't focus strictly on bars or the restaurants that sell liquor. It was more for everyone. The applications from Liquor Control Commission would be strictly for those businesses that produce and sell beverage. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Anybody have any questions for me?
I'm not seeing any hands, so.
Okay, so then I'll go to the next one, and that is the our tree contractor. We had initially looked at pushing the spring planting to fall, and we have done that. He called last week, Friday, to request if we could do a spring planting in June, the beginning of June, because everybody has pushed their plantings out, and he's got a backup of material. I told him I don't have a budget anymore. We've transferred all those funds to the next fiscal year, and he's fine with being paid in the next fiscal year. So I'm currently working with Kurt to see if we can rearrange and still have a spring planting.
Will that, go ahead. I was going to say, I didn't put my hand up, sorry, but does that affect, Michelle, our ability to keep them alive in the dead of summer versus in the cooler fall or the cooler spring? That going to be a problem for our folks?
I will be going over that with Kurt. We do put water bags on the trees so that it reduces the amount of time that DPW has to go out and water, especially those in the public right-of-way that are on public property that there's nobody else to water. If it's in front of a resident's home, while that's still public property, they are responsible for keeping it watered.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Good question. And that's it. I don't have anything more.
Yeah, Michelle, that money hasn't been transferred or anything yet, so there still should be some if we wanted to do a planting. I think there's $5,200 left.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any last questions for Michelle? Okay, we'll cruise on down. There's a written sheriff report in the packet for the month of April. Does anybody have any comments on the sheriff report? Seeing none, I'll move down to city manager report.
Sean,
please.
Paul, before you do that, I'd just like to give an update of the chamber's decision about the music in the park. They're waiting for the governor's decision about opening it up, and so they've not been canceled. So if there could be a time in late July or August, they would be wanting to have at least some concerts in the park.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Yep. And excuse me, I'm not seeing anybody else except my ugly face. Is that with everybody and the agenda? That's the only thing I'm seeing right now.
It's just the format of your screen, so you can exit full screen or do gallery view. If you take your mouse to the top of the page on the upper right, there's different views you could select. Gallery view would show you everybody.
All right, thank you.
Or exit full screen.
I'll probably lose you.
You're on speaker view.
Okay. Courtney, on to you for city manager report, please.
I don't have too many updates. They did do the soil borings on the Dexter and Arbor Road property. They did those 2 weeks ago. It was all clay, so we are not going to move forward with the infiltration testing because OHM doesn't feel that it's necessary. It's not going to find anything productive since everything that the company found was clay, so that will save a little money. So now we should be able to finalize the survey with the soil boring points and be done with that. So that piece is completed. Last meeting, I believe it was, Sean mentioned that we were working with the schools on an issue with a fiber pole that had fallen. The fiber pole was in the easement. The tree that hit it wasn't in the easement, but due to the pandemic, we were helping them coordinate tree removals and things. So we did, that has been repaired. The new pole's been put up. The new fiber is active, and we're splitting the invoice. I think it's 60-40. The schools are paying 60% and we're paying 40 since we had them put it in a place that was advantageous for us in the past. So instead of 2 poles being there, it'll just be the 1. So I think it worked out well in the long run. I don't know, Justin, do you have anything else? I was gone last week, so I know the garden is open. Yeah, unless anybody has any questions, Dan covered a lot of the project stuff.
And I don't really have much. I think we already talked about plein air.
Right, yep. We are working on a newsletter. Actually, it's quite lengthy. It's hard because you have to do it in increments of 4 pages. So we are working on that, and hopefully that can go out here in the next couple of weeks.
Absentee ballot applications were mailed out on Friday. The governor is, the Secretary of State has indicated that they are going to be sending applications to everyone who is not on the permanent list, to all registered voters, minus those on the permanent list. So our mailing kind of fills in the gap where theirs is missing. And we're expecting that we will get ballots in mid-June, and those will be mailed out to anyone that we've received an application from.
Thank you. Anything else? Any questions for Courtney or Justin?
This is Paul again. Courtney, can you give me an update on the sign for the potential fire station?
Yeah, we had the draft that was in the packet. I want to say it was like the first COVID packet we did, or the first meeting. So, yeah, it's there. So I guess council can decide when you guys want it up. You know, it's designed. It's ready. It just hasn't been produced yet.
Well, I personally would want it up. I think we passed the motion, so I would hope we'd be up ASAP.
Okay, I'll look back at it, but yeah, it kind of got pushed because of the pandemic. But
I understand.
I think they're open, so I can see about having it produced.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Anybody I missed? Speak up, please. Okay, my report is not very long. I am still working on contacting all the kids, but we'll have that recommendation for the student recommendations at the next meeting. I just want to say this for the public who's listening. We got a lot of people on. Our last budget workshop in mid-May went well. Staff's worked really hard to put together a good budget for us, another balanced budget. So that process is going well. Relative to the recent sale of land there, or to Avalon, I had outlined 3 things in my report that occurred last week. Avalon has a little bit of concern, and their lenders, that the buyback provision that's in the agreement doesn't have an end point. And I think when it was written, you know, the thought is that we want the property to get built and up for the purpose that we had envisioned, but not that the buyback provision would survive forever, although we can discuss that. So they asked if we would be willing to entertain some language discussion on that later this year, you know, potentially. So I just want to bring that up. I did have that conversation. Did everybody read my report and understand what I was saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I won't dwell any longer on that. I wanna wish
I'm not
everybody-
going to raise my hand, but I'd like to make a motion to do the consent agenda when you're ready.
Okay, I just want to wish everyone a happy belated Memorial Day. I know that in the past, whether it's been me or either Paul Cousins or other council members, Ray Tell, I know did it once. We've always enjoyed that ceremony and that very special day in Dexter, and I just wanted to recognize it under my report as the silence in town yesterday around 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock when the parade would start was I hope it's not silent like that on any other Memorial Day. I missed the parade and those activities, and just wanted to say Memorial Day to everybody for all the past history that we've had. That's been a proud day. So anyway, I'll move on to consent agenda.
John, if this is
Okay.
Donna, excuse me, I don't want to make a comment about the Memorial Day Parade as well, as possible here. I want to thank the DPW for getting up the flags. That was great. Secondly, Dee Dee from Hearts and Flowers contributed the two of the wreaths, one of them at the memorial and the other one at the flagpole. So those are up and they'll be up for a little while. And thirdly, I don't know if you heard the young lady that sings the national anthem, saying that, God bless America, I believe it is. She sang that at around 10 o'clock, which was really kind of neat to have her sing that by herself with no one else around. But it was at least reminiscent, at least what she had done previously, I think the last 4 years.
Nice.
Thank you, Paul. And
Sorry,
the
Donna, now go ahead with your motion.
the flags in the cemetery looked great too. Okay, Donna.
I'd like to move we approve the 3 items listed on the consent agenda. Bills and payroll in the amount of $205,546.63. The traffic control order for Ryan Drive and the resolution of support for the countywide millage renewal and restoration.
Okay, motion by Fisher. Jim Smith has his hand up.
I'll second.
Second by Jim. Thank you. Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the consent agenda.
Yes. Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have no old business this evening. We're down to new business item L1, which is discussion of credit card processing company.
Hello, Council.
Hi, Marie.
Hi, Marie.
And Donna, they just got mint dental chews to keep them quiet.
Well, good. Now that's worth it.
So we had mentioned at the budget meeting, kind of looking at the different credit card options or what the services that the two vendors that work with BSNA provide. And I think it's become pretty clear, with the COVID and everything that's going on, that if we can move people to electronic billing and give them a better way to handle their payments, besides the options that we have right now, that would be a positive thing. So I kind of put a memo together for you telling you the difference between what we have now and what both companies offer. So I guess let's start with, do you have any questions on the memo?
Marie, I do. This is Sean.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
What do we pay now?
Right now we pay nothing. It is totally a user fee supported service. Invoice Cloud, the billing that they would make would be for the ACH services and for the email reminders and for being a little bit more proactive with reaching out to the customers.
Okay, but it would also cost us $99 a month or something?
Correct.
So it's like $1,200?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, and I do want to say too, I'm having a discussion with Invoice Cloud right now on their pricing, because there was something that I discovered that people that pay over $500 would have to make 2 payments, and I don't like that. So we're in discussions right now.
Where's the real savings to our public, to our users?
Well, the credit cards right now would be less. You can see on that one chart, for a majority of the people. The checks would definitely be less, but not by much. The only thing that they would have an increase on would be two things, would be the tax payments by credit card and the ACH. And I want to mention one thing about the tax payments by credit card. Right now, we do not have the we have the capability, but we do not offer ACH tax payments just because of the way things transfer. But this system would allow people to manage their own and give ACH as an option for them to make payments on their taxes.
So the count column is the actual number of people that pay in in our town that use credit cards to pay?
Correct. I did it over a year.
Versus, and it's all based upon average bill size?
Well, I just averaged it, in that range, like the 50 to 100, 100 to 150, because Point and Pay has a tiered system of charging them. So I just kind of gave an average bill so you can see where it was.
Does Invoice Cloud do the same thing?
Invoice Cloud would be a flat fee. Although I am talking to them about a possible of a percentage basis instead.
But it's flat depending on the amount though, right? I mean, it looks like you've got three numbers there, 395, 790.
Well, yeah.
It goes up, right?
Yeah, I did that, Sean,
it's more of a step, right?
I did that because they have a maximum, this is what I'm talking to them about right now. They have a maximum of $300 for a credit card. So if somebody had a bill that was $400, they would have to make 2 payments, and I'm not happy with that option. But when I put this together, I structured it that way because I didn't realize that they would have to actually go in and physically make 2 payments. So
I see.
that's one of the things I'm talking to Invoice Cloud about right now. And that happened after the packet went together, that I realized that they didn't just automatically like increase it and the person would only make 1 payment.
Okay.
And one of the things too, I mentioned that, I realize that right now there's no fee for ACH. There are hidden costs for us. It's like 22 cents per ACH. And plus there's return fees, because people have ACHs that don't go through. But it would be more, one reason why I'm kind of enthusiastic about Invoice Cloud and the ACH is that they have the security that we don't have for people's personal information.
So wait, it says on here the RACH payments are 0.
Well, no, okay, I'm sorry. Like if you were signed up for ACH as a customer of the water and sewer, you don't pay anything, but the city is charged 22 cents per ACH transaction by our bank.
And how many of those do we have?
I off the top of my head, Sean, I think it's in the 400 range.
Okay. Are there other council comments on this item?
I think that it's Donna. I think that 2 payments is confusing to people who don't have a lot of internet and technology savvy. And they put it in there. I think that would be very difficult for them. They'd think, what did I do wrong? And now I can't finish it. And I think that's not a good plan.
I agree, Donna. Yep,
I'm supporting your thought. Yep. Yep, I'm supporting your thought on that.
Yeah, I wasn't happy when I found that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll bring back more information then? Is that where this is?
I can do that, yeah. Yep, if you'd like that. I don't know, is this something, Courtney, do we need action or on this?
I don't remember. Yeah, no, I don't remember if council originally approved Point and Pay or not, I guess.
Well, they originally approved official payments, but they didn't, I don't think when we switched from official payments to point and pay, I don't believe that they did, but it was like a apple to apple comparison.
Right. I mean, $1,200 isn't something that generally requires approval, so it could just be informational.
But yeah, I can
Yeah,
bring back more.
I would just like to know if it's costing more or less.
Oh, well, I mean, it will cost the city more. It'll cost the users less. Most users, not all. Most users less.
Okay. We only have a certain percentage that use it, though.
True. True.
But we think that that'll be increasing. I mean, we've seen it increase with the pandemic and people paying online.
Yeah, and they're also going to be offering, or they've just started offering Apple Pay and Google Pay,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think if people have more, capability of managing their own payments, then we will see more use. And not everybody has to use their credit card either. I mean, they could set up e-checks, or they can set up the ACH, and they can manage how many times they want to pay. Like your tax bill, you can manage it that I'm going to pay a payment July, August, September. You know, you as the taxpayer, which is, I mean, right now you can send me 3 checks and I'll take them. But I think as you know, people are able to manage it better, they might use it more.
I think you're right about that.
This is Paul. I just heard something on the guy from PNC Bank that was talking that the way that things have been going with them, they believe that they're going to be actually reducing the number of tellers in their various banks because they're going to have more and more people using the system of payment. And it's, I think it's a wave that's probably caused by this COVID-19. I think people are going to start changing their habits and their ways to do things since they're introduced to it now, and it's going to be easier for them in the long run.
Okay, well, if you bring back the answers to the questions that you're asked about double payments and all that stuff, that'd be helpful, I think.
Yep, I will have that for you at your next meeting.
Thank you.
And put me back on mute so my dogs don't go crazy.
Okay.
You be nice.
Thanks, Marie. Okay, item L2 is our continued discussion on the 3rd Street Broad Street reconstruction project.
Yeah, so OHM just had a few more follow-up questions based on the conversation. They had provided some estimates so that council could get a sense for what the options cost, and then that way we can have a kind of better information to know if that's the direction that we want to go. So either, I don't know, just Patrick or Marcus or who's, I don't have my gallery view up, but.
I'll lead us off.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Okay. Yeah. So just real quick, as Courtney mentioned, we presented last meeting a collection of questions based on our dive into the design of the project, starting over at Dexter Mill and continuing around the corner. And so there's a lot of good discussion that came out. And the one thing missing, I think, from that discussion was an idea of how these various options would impact overall project budget and any of the other potential complications that come up with regard to right-of-way and schedule, and just getting all the, making sure we're in a good spot to have biddable documents based on where we're going with the schedule. So Marcus worked with our design team to further evaluate these and kind of go through them.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. I'm Marcus McNamara here with OHM.
Hi, Marcus.
Hi, Marcus.
So you have a memo in your packet dated May 19th, which we basically took the input, the questions that we got from the last council meeting when we had this item up for discussion, and did that evaluation. And there was essentially 4 sections here that we gave you a little bit more breakdown into detail. I'll just run through those bullet points quickly. There are some schematics in the packet as well that correspond with this. And I'll touch on those quickly. The first item was the 3rd Street bike lane question. I think when 3rd Street was originally evaluated or contemplated on a reconstruct, that may not have been considered. So the intersection with Central Street would need some additional modifications to accommodate bike lanes. Essentially, the south radius would need to be enlarged slightly. There are 2 utility poles around the curve, DTE poles that would need to be relatively new poles, in fact, that would need to be relocated further off of the road. And there's 2 street lights at Central Street, decorative lights that would need to be relocated. So those additional items of work, along with just the additional road aggregate base and asphalt, essentially an extra 10-foot width, 5-foot bike lane either side, that would come to roughly $50,000 to add bike lanes on 3rd Street for that stretch. The other item that was discussed was parking on 3rd Street. The question was how much could be accommodated. Unfortunately, because of the multiple curb cut locations on the mill side, which are shown on the schematic, I do want to point out that those right now are still in the conceptual phase. We know we need to meet with the mill to discuss the specifics of that geometry. I don't want anybody to think that the exact geometry associated with those is final. However, we expect that 3 cuts will need to be put back in because that's what they have now. So even if there are some tweaks to that, you really don't have room to have any on-street parking on that side of the street. Because of the sight distance around the curve, there isn't room to fit anything between the alley and the curve on the west side. So where you can fit on-street spaces is between the alley and Central, and allowing for the appropriate separation from the intersections, 5 spaces. And the cost associated with that really is just the pavement itself, the bump out pavement, which is roughly $15,000. Sidewalk alignment was another item we discussed, and it gets a little bit more complicated. In order to meet the ADA requirements to provide accessible crosswalk crossing the alley, the existing sidewalk needs to be dropped by a couple of feet across the frontage of that the residential.
That's a lot.
If it were to, it would need to be dropped if it were to remain in its current horizontal location from the road. So to do that, to construct a retaining wall to accommodate that lowered sidewalk, which allows you to meet ADA, is approximately $40,000. That does include an allocation to connect that walk at the home back up to that. The alternative to the retaining wall and keeping the sidewalk in the location that it's in would be to shift it closer to the road, which would eliminate the need for the retaining wall. And the cost for that is approximately $8,000. So the difference between the two is $32,000. We did note in the memo here, because I know there was a concern about the offset that you would get from the road with the realigned sidewalk. If the bike lane option were selected, you'd have a 3-foot margin between that relocated walk and the road. If you didn't do bike lanes, you'd have 8 feet. And that realigned sidewalk really isn't an option if you wanted to do the parking bays now, or if you wanted to have the ability to do those sometime in the future. They would be conflicting. And then the last thing we had on the memo here is the decorative lighting. We broke it out just between the 2 blocks because they are different in character. The placement of the lighting on Third Street on the Mill Street side would be dependent on the final decisions made about how those curb cuts would go. We expect that there will be some limitations on that. You probably won't get the typical spacing on that side, just based on the width and number of driveways. And on the west side, we would be able to meet the typical spacing. The details of where the circuitry would run from that would need to be worked out. It would probably either be coming from Main and Broad all the way down, or would be have to add a new service panel on the circuit. There were a couple of other items under the additional items that council had brought up that we are basically just acknowledging that there was discussion about that, and they'll be integrated into design. Those really had little or minimal cost, or were contemplated with the original scoping, so there's really no change. We just put it in there to document that we heard you, and we'll be addressing those. So what we were hoping to get tonight was clear direction on the city's expectations for those 4 items: the bike lanes on 3rd Street, whether or not we're going to include on-street parking on 3rd with this project, which sidewalk alignment option is preferred, and whether or not to include decorative lighting. And other than the decorative lighting, those other questions we really need to understand the decision on those in order to take the next step and submit for permitting, because all those things affect the footprint of the road, which is a key item when you're getting historical clearances and impact clearances from various agencies. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on this item.
Jim Smith has his hand up. Jim, I'll call on you, and then we'll go to Zach.
I just wanted to give my comments to the questions on page 160. The bike lane on 3rd Street, I would say no. On the on-street parking spaces on 3rd, I would say no. I would say yes, realign the sidewalk. Decorative lighting, I don't think is needed there. I would say no on that. And then I would have a suggestion. I know on Central Street out in front of the mill, it was important to have the curbing and everything. But I think on 3rd Street, I think you could actually do without the curbing from as it comes around the corner there from Central, and then start the curbing again at the beginning of the curve. And just, leave the 3 open spots there into the mill pretty much as they are.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Zach?
All right, I will do my quick version here. And no, I'm not driving around town, but my battery on the phone started to die, so I had to go to the car to charge it up and keep it running. Nice thing though is that there is air conditioning in the car. I would say that the parking on the opposite side of the mill, not necessarily install that now, but design it so we could. I would like to know if it's possible for us to not continue the bike lanes all the way through the intersection. So we put the lanes in on the section of road, and then it's like any place where the bike lanes just kind of disappear. We have the sign that says bike lane disappears. You have to drive like regular folks now. I think the lights are good. And the sidewalk, I prefer to keep it where it is for a couple of reasons. I think it looks real janky and Mickey Mousey when you've got sidewalks that wiggle all over the place. I especially find it's not pleasant when you have the sidewalk next to the street without a row of trees in between them. It's a very standard thing across all U.S. cities: street, trees, sidewalk, private yard. And I would like to hear what options we have to not fully meeting ADA, because this is not a new sidewalk but a rehabilitation. My understanding is it's been a while since I've been into details, but that there's some phrase reasonable accommodation where you try to do the best you can to come as close to the standards as possible. And I think that would apply to this case because the sidewalk is there. And I think that's my couple cents.
Thanks, Zach. Paul
Sean?
and Donna, you want to make, Donna, go ahead.
When we did site plan for the mill, weren't those curb cuts a real issue and they're on some kind of site plan?
I mean, we talked about it extensively on the Central Street side. We didn't really cover them on the Third Street side at that time.
Okay.
I mean, but we know
Okay.
that they're going to want, you know, at least the 3 that are there most likely. And then our thought was add some definition to them, kind of like what we did on the Central
Yeah,
Street
okay.
side. But like I said, that's
Yep.
all up in the air
Thanks.
until we confirm that.
Yeah.
But, you know, like
All
the
right,
bike
thank you.
lane makes a big difference to how much room we have to work with things, you know.
Sure.
So we
Sure,
just need to
sure.
move
No,
it
that's
on
good. Thank you.
Donna, I bought some flowers / veggies at the mill this past weekend, and I gave Carrie a heads up that we're, talking about this and that staff would be reaching out, or our engineers through our staff would be reaching out. I think she'll work with us, like they did last time. They've been expecting it. She more or less wanted to know which year it was, going to occur, and I said it's next year, not this year. So she was thankful of that. But I think starting that conversation is good.
Well, that gives them time to re-sign and retrain the customer as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, at
That's
least
good.
the Central Street access point will be open for them, and hopefully that
Yeah.
will be, that's where the majority of
Yeah.
their traffic comes, I imagine.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Paul, you want to go? Or do you want me to
I
go?
think the bike lane, I drove down there like you did, Sean, and I sat there for a while and tried to think about how I could design it myself. But I just think that the bike lane, that so many of the bikes come off, cross the river, and they turn right there on Huron Street, come into town that way. And so I don't know how much really use this street has for bikes. I mean, if you had an accident, somebody said you should have a bike lane. I got that, but I don't really know that we need a bike lane there in that space. So I think that not having it gives us some other options there. I guess I don't agree with Zach on the idea that we should use the exemption there on the sidewalk. I think that sidewalk ought to be set the standards now that we try to do everywhere. If it costs us a little bit more to put in some retaining walls or something, that's what we're going to have to do. I don't necessarily disagree with this idea that the offset I think you used the words jinky sidewalks there. I don't necessarily disagree with that either. So I guess I go more for the bike lane options with the sidewalks than the other one there, if that's possible. The other issue was, I've lost my mind now, but the other issue was lighting. I'm not so sure that I need lighting there coming around that either. We got it on Central, we'll have it on Broad all the way up and down. I'm okay with no lighting there either. So I think I get all the issues there.
Yeah, I was thinking, Paul, I mean, we could put something, I don't know if it's mentioned on here, to do something, maybe overhead or one light that's at the alley intersection on Third, but I wasn't necessarily thinking we needed them all up and down Third like we do on Broad and Central.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's a good idea.
So I'm in support of the bike lanes. I'm in support of the retaining wall with the sidewalk near the right of way. I agree with Zach. I don't like it when it meanders all over the place. I especially think there needs to be lighting near the crosswalk that's on Broad.
Yeah.
If you add one at the alley, I think I could concur with that, Courtney. I think we talked about that the last meeting. I don't like the island that's proposed. You can't make a left turn from Broad onto Third coming the other way. That doesn't make any sense to me. What did I not cover? So I guess I like
Yeah,
most of the
Right. I guess
And
now how do I solve this problem then? Do I have to make this an action item now for next meeting? Is that what people are going to be comfortable with if we have like dissension over bike lanes? Because it does take a lot to create them, and we'd have to tear up what we just did at Central Street, at the corner of Central, which never looks good for the community when you're tearing up something brand new. So I guess
Yeah.
you guys are going to have to tell me how you want me to handle the fact that there's differing opinions. Do you want me to just frame it as an action item?
I think you need to meet with the property owners first and figure out
But
what.
how do
what-
you? Okay.
I think you asked what I thought. I'm telling you.
But I mean, how can we meet with the property owners when we don't know what to tell them that we're going to put in the road? It makes a
Well,
difference.
I think there's still some input into the process that hasn't been brought into the whole thing, first of all.
Workshop?
Yeah, all right.
I agree.
Well, one of the questions that I have that I didn't get to is, where is the right-of-way line on that side of the street? It's not real clear to me on the drawing.
Basically
that I'm-
touching the mill.
Right. It's on the drawing. It's actually quite a ways up. It's the buildings are within the right of way or touching it. So where the red arrows are pointing at the driveways, it's that line.
Okay. So that's the right of way there. And then what happens when you go to the railroad, towards the railroad, as you come around the curve by station 20 +00?
Essentially and that was part of what
they cross.
One of the things, yeah, they're basically the railroad right of way and road right of way are essentially coincident there. And that's something that we need to work through with the process. And so that's why that's one of the the footprint, the width of the road is important before we can submit those plans for approval from those agencies.
Right, including MDOT, which we know is not a fast.
Right.
MDOT Railroad, I can say, which is really Amtrak, because Amtrak makes a lot of their decisions.
Maybe you trained them the last time and they'll be better this time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I was suggesting or going to suggest is that, it may be that you could, first of all, it may be that the mill could only live with 2 openings. And there could be parking on a portion of that if we have the right of way there. But it might be that it's, parallel instead of the perpendicular.
Yeah, we could, and Patrick might have more detail on that, but I think that northerly most drive, at least from the discussions with them from the Central Street project, is necessary for them for their delivery truck turning movements.
Right. Yep.
That was our understanding.
That's the one closest to the railroad tracks?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Well, so that's a good, that's good. That, if you might be able to, well, I guess I just ask how they come in. I don't know if they come in both off 3rd or if they come in off of Central and then go out on 3rd. But I thought we were just brainstorming, so I'm just throwing ideas out there. You might be able to get rid of the middle one and convert that to parking. Was my thought, but just an idea.
Hey, Sean,
Yeah, Jim.
there's only 2 entrances to the mill off of 3rd Street. The
I
other
know one's parking.
Parking.
Yep, I know.
Okay.
I know, but it isn't a great idea to have perpendicular parking that close to an intersection anyway. It would be much better if it was parallel. If people are coming around the corner. If we're talking about all the things that might be thoughts for design criteria.
That was said last time, that, it's so close to the corner coming out Central there, that doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. You're not gonna be able to see if you're backing out, if nobody's around to see. Hopefully they see you, but I
Right.
just don't get
But we did it anyway.
it anyway.
Well, we did it because there's extra room over there, though.
Okay, well, we'll just talk to the mill before the next meeting and put it back on the agenda again. Thank you for the feedback.
Can you give us a date, end date, when we need to make this final decision on this as a council?
As soon as it's humanly possible, because we have to get these permits filed because they take forever and a good time, let alone a pandemic. So I would say hopefully we can decide by the first meeting in June.
Thank you.
We have an extra week, so
When does the property acquisition process start?
as soon as we know what we need to ask him for.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that obvious from the two schematics, but the property acquisition would be more for the bike lane option. Not really because of the road footprint, but because the road requires the relocation of the utility poles. And so we would need to, that dog ear would need to be larger to accommodate those relocated utility poles.
So if
Got it.
you don't do bike lanes, then you don't need the property?
No, you still need property, you just don't need as much.
Okay.
There's no circumstance under which we wouldn't need some property.
The
because
existing
it's-
road is cutting over that corner of private property.
Okay.
What about the island that I mentioned?
So that was still obviously in the schematic phase. We had looked at that. There's benefits to that because of the channelization from Broad Street on to Third. It would, as you mentioned, Sean, limit potentially left turns from Broad on to Third. And so we had asked staff if that would be feasible or not. And I think the initial response was probably not. The geometry of the island that's on this schematic would not work, but we think that there's some type of mountable island with some different geometry that would allow the left turns that would still really help with actually keeping speeds down around that corner. And keep that traffic set, and also keeping that, improving the safety for the Third Street left turn onto Broad.
Are you talking especially like truck traffic?
What's that?
Are you talking specifically when you're talking about slowing them down? Are you talking about the truck traffic?
Yeah, well, all vehicles, but trucks, would probably need to slow down more than a passenger vehicle. So the details of that intersection geometry essentially is going to be similar whether you have the island or not. We just felt like it was a lot of pavement, and if there's a way to break that up, channelize the traffic while still allowing all the movements, that would be a good design feature. But that, whether or not the island goes in, really doesn't impact the back of curb locations.
Gotcha.
The curve geometry is based off of the design criteria for the speed and the.
Yeah. Okay. Michelle, I see you have a hand up.
Yes, in regard to the property acquisition area needing to be larger if there's a bike lane, I think we probably need to find out from Mr. Waits what he's going to prefer. We already know that he knows that he's going to have, that we're going to ask for property, but the amount is really going to be dependent on where he would be able to put his house based on whatever amount of property we would be looking for. I hope that made sense. The larger the triangle, the more impact to whatever future development he wants to do on that property. And that might just influence your decision whether you want to go a bike path or not.
Okay, thank you. Other council comments at this point? Okay, well, hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks. Out to the property owners.
New business item L3 is discussion of allowing Dexter businesses to use outdoor spaces to safely open and operate during the ongoing global pandemic.
Yep, I guess I'll just throw the spaghetti out on the wall there for our discussion. So acknowledging that we still are in lockdown in Michigan or timeout, depending on how you look at it. That's going to end sometime soon. And my discussions with friends and other owners of business is that they're kind of worried that if they have to operate at reduced capacity, 50% or 25%, that it's going to be real challenging for them to have staff and to have a profitable business. Also, people are going to be a bit more nervous about just going out to these places. So we discussed last time potential for closing off some parking spaces. So it appears that that would be a very good option for many of these operations. People are more comfortable. It seems safer outdoors because you don't have confined air. You've got your ultraviolet light that you don't have to ingest into your lungs. So that's nice for everybody too. The trick is the zoning ordinance didn't really think about these types of concepts. So it's not quick either. So it'd be lengthy process for us to just use our current processes. If we're going to close off public space, the parking spaces, council has to vote on it, and that's 2 to 3 weeks from when they come in the door. So my thoughts right now are that we have the discussion, see what we might be able to do, adopt a temporary ordinance that would allow staff to approve closing of parking spaces, both in downtown and for the restaurants out in the strip centers. So they could even put up tents perhaps, but make sure that these spaces are protected with concrete blocks or planter boxes made out of plywood, stuff like that. I have tested the idea, bounced a couple of thoughts, like I said, with folks who operate businesses both here and other places, and it seems like they're very supportive of it. That's all the spaghetti I'm going to throw for right now. Oh, one more, sorry. The tricky thing for us thinking about this is if we do it as a standalone police power ordinance, the advantage is that it doesn't become a legally non-conforming event or a use wherever it's at. And we would have to do it if we want to do it in June as an emergency ordinance, which our charter allows. It doesn't need the full publication. We could still publish it. So I'd hope that we would leave to this meeting with a notice that we're going to have discussion on an ordinance. Emergency ordinance needs to be approved by 2/3 of the folks there. It's good for 60 days. It could be renewed, or we can adopt a new one with the full legal noticing and tweak it as our experience goes. Okay, I'm really done now.
Well, I can just say that at the DDA meeting, the DDA was generally supportive of the idea, Zach. We talked about it for quite a while in 2 areas that were in the DDA packet. One, the area on Main Street in front of the creamery, the pub, and Riverside, if you will, that set of parking bays, and then a little bit down near the beer grotto. I think it was 3 spaces that were shown or identified, at least on the visual we were using. But the other thing we talked about is making sure that all the property owners, I guess, are contacted in this process. If we're just because the question I guess I would have is can somebody set up can Artistica put something out there because they front that space, or is this just restaurant that we're focused on?
Personally, I'd be in favor of making it easier for outdoor display for all businesses.
So does then just one half of the road get to use it, or are we talking the complete shutdown of Main? I guess the question, I'm not saying I've got it figured out yet. I like the concept. I just think we need to get input on who might be interested in something like that. You know, I don't know if there's such a thing as a straw poll when you walk around and say hi to people about the idea, but it might be interesting to know what people might be thinking about using the space. You know what I mean? Leading into an approval of something like that.
That would be my concern as well, in terms of making sure that we provide the same opportunity to all of our merchants. And I'd have to think more about it because I can't see how to do it. I'll have to think more about it.
But I'm representing the DDA was definitely supportive. Michelle, help me if I missed something.
No, you explained their discussion and their consensus quite well. Thanks, Sean. I participated in the Northville DDA Economic Development Committee meeting today, and one of the things that they're trying is they're looking at closing down both their Main Street and their Center Street. They have traditional T set up for the rest of the summer. I certainly wouldn't propose that in Dexter. We don't have a traditional T, but it might be something to consider that maybe you, in order to give the everybody that level playing field is maybe you look at shutting down the streets for just a weekend or certain weekends during the summer, so that everybody can come out onto the roadway and excuse me, and provide their wares for people, and the people can walk down the middle of the street, and all the parking spaces are used by the different businesses. I think you could find a way to reroute traffic. It would mean it would go through the residential neighborhoods, but it's an option for you to consider if you wanted.
Michelle, did the DDA address the idea of trying to make an equal playing field?
We ran out of time before being able to get into more ways of peeling that onion, Donna. But generally, they do want equity. Hopefully I've used that word right.
Well, and
That'll
Don, I think the thought, and just to kind of try and bring it back to where Zach was starting it from a little bit. You know, the thought is if you could increase the seating capacity for the restaurants, that those are the biggest draws, and that would bring people, you know, downtown, and then the other businesses that, you know, maybe don't need the space as much as a restaurant, but there would at least be more people around that could potentially visit the other retail stores as they try to open up too, sort of that type of thing to, you know, create that vibrancy, create that opportunity. But we didn't, you know, the sentiment I want you to take away is that I don't think there was anybody that suggested that they were not in favor of it. There were a couple people that suggested that we definitely need to talk to all the property owners, just because they felt there might be some people that, you know, have some concerns.
Well, there's another side that I've thought of is it may not agree with people that we're asking people to come together, and since we're not out of you're still under the directive, there are people that are not wanting to congregate, and that crossed my mind as well. So it'll be hard to decide, I think.
Well, and Zach mentioned, you know, the safety angle of it is real important. That's what I talked about at the DDA too. You know, it's, or maybe it was with Michelle. You know, we can't just put up flimsy whatever, and I assume we want it to, you know, look as inviting and practical as it can. Well, Michelle, I think, mentioned those plastic things you fill with water. You know, maybe they don't have to be concrete barricades, but
They have to have some substance to it to prevent
something that, Anyway, I'm open for looking at language for it. I don't know what the next step is on that. If we have to give a soft blessing to ask Michelle to put something together that would operate in that 60-day example?
Yeah, I mean,
that-
council can just adopt it at a meeting at which it's introduced. It doesn't have to have a public hearing if it's an emergency under the emergency ordinance statute. And like Zach
Okay.
said, it would be 60 days that it would be good for, with a possible renewal for an additional 60 days.
Right, so
Most
if
it
we
could
could,
be is 120 days.
so if we could see the language at the next meeting, then we could take action if we liked it, right? Or tweak it and take action?
Correct. Yeah.
So does that accomplish the conversation? Does staff have the time to pull something like that together?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Council, is everybody good with that next? Oh, Jim Smith's got his hand up. Sorry, Jim, I'm talking and not looking at the participant screen.
I just wanted to mention, I think there's probably still a segment of the population that would like to see the curbside pickup still be available. And so if you're taking parking spaces for seating,
Right.
you know, are you taking away that curbside pickup opportunity?
And it, Jim, it might be that you have to, you know, you have to figure out how to do both in those sections. You know what I mean? You know, it might be that the west end is open for seating and the east end is temporary curbside or something. But you know, it has to be thought through. That's the hard part. It can't be 2 spaces of parking and 2 open, and then 2 parking and 2 open. You know, that becomes harder, I think.
Yep. Well, for those who don't want to congregate, perhaps the pickup is important to them.
Right. Absolutely.
So I don't know what's right. I just don't know. I think about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Could I add something?
Sure.
Maybe we do parking lots on Alpine Street instead of the places where they're doing the roadside pickup. Maybe that's something else to look at. Like behind the pub where Cottage Inn is, they're closed Alpine, and we still got the truck route open, because if we did try to close Main Street, we still got to get the trucks through town. We got Hudson and Grand Street going on right now also.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot to look at, Dan. Thanks.
Yeah, there is.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I think Donna hit it that the curbside pickup is a concern. If you do just on the east end, you know, you'll hit the Creamery. Peter's in the middle with the pub. And I don't know if the people at the Riverside even doing any curbside pickup. I don't know that. I haven't been there to do that. So I don't know that. So my wife would be concerned if you didn't allow her to park at the Wits Inn for your haircut, but I will be gladly to drop her off and pick her up at any time so that we can get on with this, okay?
Well, right. Paul, you also have the karate studio.
Yeah, well, the karate studio, I know, I guess I don't see that as a crucial thing.
But I mean, they might
as
want
much as-
people to be dropped off and picked up in front of there. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
It's a tough decision to make. I know that, I heard that in Ypsilanti and in Depot Town, they're going to close off the whole street there between the restaurants there and the activities there. So somebody may want to call them up and ask them how they're doing it. I know the city manager there, and she'd be glad to help out or point you to somebody that would do that. Or the DDA there, I'm sure will give you some answers there too. But that's what I heard last week, that they're going to close off the whole street there in Depot Town there.
Right.
So I can tell you that Wits End actually called me last week because they had seen the discussion when it first came up. What was that? At your last meeting? And she completely supports closing off parking spaces. And she's willing to take any heat from her businesses or her patrons. She feels that the way she said it was, she feels that it's important that the businesses come together to help one another. The owner of the karate studio, while he agrees with that, is not willing to not have a place for his people to park. Excuse me. He would be willing, if his people had a place to park, like at the Cottage Inn lot. But that's going to take some working with that particular property owner, because he's going to want something for the efforts, like assisting with some repair work that he feels needs to be done to the parking lot. So it's.
That Alex?
Yes.
Did I hear yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, you know,
Well,
there's always somebody wanting their back scratched a little bit harder.
Well, Michelle, I think that why don't we take the step of draft up some language
Okay.
similar to the previous discussion. I think you should talk to as many of the businesses as you can. If you haven't hit them all already, try and communicate with as many as you can. Let us know what the information is, and then, you know, we can think about it for 2 weeks and keep going.
Okay. Let me ask one question, please. In regards to the spots on North Main. If you only did half of them, so from Riverview up to the point where Dexter's Pub is, and those were repurposed for outdoor area, but the rest of them were open. I realize that the creamery wouldn't have spaces in front, but would you be willing to allow him to use more of the public area around the clock for his outdoor seating? That might balance that everybody's concerns, from the curbside to people having the ability to park in front of their businesses. It's a way to balance things. Just throwing it out there for you to think about.
Yeah, I think bring some ideas back like that. Talk it over with the different people, and
okay,
let's keep the conversation moving. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't mean to. I don't want to cut anybody off. Is council comfortable there?
Yes.
Okay, that's where we're leaving it. That's where we're going. Okay. All right. New business item L4 is the request from Joe Boydston for the Sunday, May 31st processional. Did all of council on the phone get that email from Courtney earlier today?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I see Jim Smith has his hand up.
Yes, I would like to make the motion to approve the application for the DHS Seniors Procession on Sunday, excuse me, what's the
May
date?
31st. May 31st.
I almost said June 1st, May 31st, yes. And with the recommendations of the conditions provided by staff. First one, parents or guardian must drive the vehicle. 2, all vehicles should be marked in some way to indicate they are part of the processional. 3, standing along the route should be actively discouraged. 4, seniors in the parking lot awaiting the start of the processional should remain in their vehicles and not congregate in groups.
Okay, motion by Smith.
Second, Michelle's.
Second, Michelle's. Thank you, Zach. Council discussion. I'd like to thank staff for getting involved and pulling this together. Justin, you last week, and then Courtney today. I think that this is a good thing for those graduating seniors. I think the term processional is very appropriate. And I hope that anyone listening or writing Doug about this, that we advocate for proper social distancing. If you happen to see the potentially 280 cars go by at the same time at 2 o'clock on Sunday, we need to make sure that we are staying safe in everything that we do. Please. Jim, is your hand up still?
Nope.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'll put mine up though. I will say personally, I'd even be happy to see in future years, because then this group of kids can get to say they started it. And I would even be supportive of it traveling farther through the community, through the different subdivisions and the neighborhoods of downtown, so that folks don't have to go to Main Street to watch it. They can just sit on their porch and wave. But just my 2 pennies there.
They did talk about that, Zach, but I think with the time constraints and the sort of coordination, that would have been difficult. And, you know, most of the, I don't know what percentage actually live in the city, but, you know, a lot of them don't. But they did talk about that, but I don't think it was logistically something they could tackle in the time frame.
Thanks.
Yep.
I have 4 of them on my street right now that have signs out that there's seniors. So I would be happy for them to come by my street. Everybody else has come by my street since you got the road closed over there on the other side. So.
Thank you, Paul. You've now said that repeatedly.
Well, you know.
Yeah, Paul, that's we, since we closed the road, not
right.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Got it.
Okay. Is there any other council discussion? I see Jill has her hand up. Jill, I'm going to make an exception. You get 1 minute. I'm not supposed to usually call on. Justin, why don't you unmute Jill, please?
Hi, this is actually JD Boydston, Jill's husband. Thank you very much.
We can't accept JD. No.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just to follow up with Zach's comment and Courtney's, our original route actually did go through the 3 main subdivisions close to town, the Westridge and Hudson or Huron Farms and Dexter Crossing. But when we showed it to our daughter, who was a senior, it was 30 minutes or so at normal pace based on the Google Maps. And she's like, well, that's going to be an hour sitting in the car for everybody at the slower parade procession pace. So then we kind of scratched that. But the one benefit to that would be, yes, people with the idea to tell people they could stand outside their homes and watch it from there. And because if people hear about it and they know about it, yeah, they may try to gather, and that would have helped reduce the gathering and help with the social distancing. But what we presented was just the shorter map. We had considered doing both, presenting both options for you to consider.
My suggestion, thank you, JD. My suggestion is that all the graduates take their iPhones and do a little video from the car and then email those out to everybody or put them on YouTube so you can see the procession on YouTube a few hours later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any other council discussion on this? I'd like to call the vote. I'm down to 7% battery power. Okay, Ms. Jones?
Okay, Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Fisher, I didn't get a response from Donna. That's my dog barking in the back.
Timmy's trapped into mine.
Well, I'll go on to
She's on mute. I think.
She must have muted herself.
okay, I was on Fisher. Did I get a response?
I'm right here, but
Okay.
I muted.
Oh, you muted? Okay.
Okay, did you vote yes in support of the procession?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Keo?
Yes. I wish everybody good luck on Sunday in the first annual senior high school grad procession. Thanks again to staff for pulling that together and organizing it with the sheriff and such. Okay, we are down to, what are we down to? Council comments, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Okay, Zach, you ready to go first, sir?
Yep. The one thing that's been touched on briefly in other conversations is as the farmers market opens up, it would be nice to see if there's a way for us to close Alpine for that. As long as the library is closed, maybe talk with them so that folks who might want to go there can park in the library, and then we have more space for things to spread out. Another potential too for concerts, if we're able to open up, closing Central Street during those concerts so there's again more room for people to spread out. And that's all I've got. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Zach. Jim Smith, please.
Yes, as president of the Dexter High School Alumni Association, I wanted to say thank you to the people that were organizing the procession and to staff for helping to make it possible.
Thank you, Jim. Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, I'm really proud of our parents for getting that together and approaching people. So good luck to the kids. I hope they have a wonderful day.
Mr. Cousins?
I'm okay this evening, just happy that things are going along as well as they can. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
Well said. Well said. Okay. I'm going to bring that around then to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to say anything before we reach our adjournment this evening? Justin, I'm not seeing any hands.
I'm also not seeing any hands.
All right. I guess Cole's going to break his streak of meetings saying hi to us, so. Everybody for a good meeting and a long one. Thanks for putting up. Oh, wait, Angie has her hand up.
I'm a parent of a senior, and I just want to say thank you for doing this for them. I know I'm a little emotional because we're very happy, but it's been thrown together. I just want to thank Jill and all of you very, very much for this. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, I see Cole's hand's now up.
Hey, I didn't realize it was a thing. So I did just receive my absentee ballot application in the mail, and I know I had asked about that before, and I appreciate the work that went into that. So, conscious of Sean's battery life, so I'll get off now.
Thanks, pal. I just want to make sure you're still listening. And then Sandy Getz, please.
Hi, I just want to say thank you again for your support of our seniors, and I do hope that we can do this in the years to come and make this a tradition. But the seniors, thank you. The parents, thank you. And we will have a good day on Sunday. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Jill has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, council, I think we're at the end. I will seek a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah, okay, moved by Smith, second by Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everyone. Enjoy the darkness.
You too. Bye-bye.